A map of all the countries which are built different. In blue, we have countries which touch water, and in red, we have how are you even alive? How can they survive without water? Are they telling us something we don't know? That goes for all these places. Like, what is their secret? Maybe they're just surviving off of photosynthesis. A map of the world if sea levels were to rise by 5,000 meters, or in other words, by 5 kilometers. There'd pretty much be only a couple of people that survived here in the Tibetan lands of China, while also very tiny spots of Nepal, Pakistan, Afghanistan. There's only one place though where the entirety of the country will be saved, and this should literally surprise no one. As I've said many times before, if anyone's gonna defeat the sea, it'll be the Netherlands. I've just found a way to like conquer it fully, like never have to worry about it ever again. One thing's for sure, if sea levels start to rise 5,000 meters, I'm booking a one-way ticket to this place. That or some of these dots here in the Andes Mountains. Guess where I'm from based on this map? It's one of the countries on the map. Don't cheat by doxing me. You know what? I've been staring at this thing for like 15 minutes. I cannot figure this out. I think part of the reason though is because I'm really confused why there's a giant lake here in the United Kingdom. When did that DLC drop? Map of Europe, but it was just right there. I don't understand. Seriously, like what is happening? Phineas and Ferb at it again, I guess. A data graph showing the US's aid to Ukraine, which it's actually just a giant flag of Armenia. Every single dot you see is how often the US is sending Armenian flags to the Ukrainian war front. Who could have guessed they were such a big fan of this country? Helps them fight harder. The People's Federation of East Asia, the Eurasian Union, and of course, the United Oceania States. Now, a lot of this territory right here is disputed, but you know, we'll figure that out later. Something tells me this totally wouldn't be a horrifying world where Big Brother is always watching. What's weird about this is I believe this map was made by someone back in 1984. Wait a second. Map of all the countries I heard my neighbor's 9-year-old kid screaming about last night at 2 p.m. while playing video games while I was trying to sleep. Seems like an oddly specific event that just keeps following this person all around the world. Iran, Chad, Niger, and Uruguay? Oh, wow. This actually almost went completely over my head. These are the countries the neighbor kid was screaming for some reason. But I have a feeling the pronunciation of these places was a little different. Just found out the country of Lesotho perfectly fits that strange gap inside of South Africa. How could such a coincidence even be possible? It's almost like South Africa was made to perfectly fit in this random country. But no, that would just be weird. Like, who would have a huge country just inside their own borders like that? A map of all the countries which use the operating system Linux. I mean, I knew that not using Microsoft or Apple was pretty rare, but not this rare. It just seems like it's really on the southern part of the hemisphere. I feel so bad for this little penguin guy. It's like no humans want to use Linux. Maybe one day they'll finally find a user base out there. On a completely unrelated note, here's a world map showing exactly where penguins live in the world. All right, here we go. All the countries on Earth which actually have no name. We have South Africa, the Central African Republic, Great Britain, and then the United States of America. I see what they're getting at here. They technically have no unique name. I mean, you can't just call your country the southern part of a continent, or even the central part for that matter. You also can't just call your country the island's name and then slap an adjective in front of it. Just because you said it's great doesn't mean you shouldn't have to come up with your own unique name. I mean, you don't see the country of Sri Lanka call itself by its island name of Ceylon. And then finally, there's you. What are we gonna do about you? The United States literally just said we're Americans and no one else is, even though we have a North and South American continent right here. So we just decided to once again steal the continent's name and then slap a, like, we're states. Well, yeah, I'm hoping you have some sort of states over here. Now, what's your actual name? While we're on this subject, should we really allow these places to just slap the word new in front of some other person's unique name? Like, I feel like you should be forced to come up with something else. And no, I'm not gonna forget them like everyone else does. That goes for you too. Actually, looking this up, I found it pretty interesting. The island of Cuba also is just Cuba. And then of course there's the giant island of Madagascar. But no, I'm pretty sure they got their own unique name from a movie. There's a couple more that are kind of on the gray area of this call out. We have Saudi Arabia, which is kind of just named after the Arabian Peninsula. You just told us exactly who rules over it, the Saudis. And then of course there's the UAE as well. They can't be left off. I feel like this post has really opened up a rabbit hole though, because I mean, we really have to look at every single country in a way and see how they got their name exactly. I mean, the Netherlands literally just means the Low Countries. Should that even count? I mean, they do have a unique name with Holland, but they don't want to use that. I feel like we'd actually have to dive into all the literal translation of country names to truly figure this out. We didn't let New Zealand off the hook. I don't think we can let Australia either. It's a lot easier to get away with not naming your country after the island you're on if you control several islands. So like Japan and like Indonesia kind of come to mind. That makes the Sri Lanka example even more crazier because they really just have one island and they didn't go with the same name. Haiti and the Dominican Republic share Hispaniola, so they both kind of got really lucky with this one. I think the actual most egregious example of this has got to be Iceland. In many translations, it's literally just island. Oh, some examples of some current inaccurate names. The geographic center of the US. Obviously, if you draw a red line down the middle, you have west and east. Yet these states specifically, this has always been called the Midwest, and it has literally confused me for like my entire life. Meanwhile, same thing on a world scale, this is called the Middle East, yet doesn't look exactly in the middle to me. Actually, now that I think about it, that one is actually kind of accurate. But luckily, we have a proposed change to all this. These states become the Middle East, and the Middle East actually becomes the Midwest. Okay, I think this guy's onto something, actually. Like, if you're from anywhere in the eastern part of Asia or even Oceania, this looks like the Midwest to you, the middle point to the west. Regardless, I am 100% down to call these states the Middle East. That makes way more sense. Places have always seemed Middle Eastern to me. But the truth is, we came up with these names a very long time ago. So the Midwest, for example, was in the 1800s. Also note this, the mid in Midwest refers to the fact that this part of the country is terminally mid. That's also a big factor. I forgot to explain that part. Ah, yes, we have a nice languages world map. Here are all the countries speaking Brazilian. Here are all the countries speaking Mexican. Here are all the countries speaking American. I'm trying so hard to do this with a straight face. And finally, here are all the countries speaking Quebecese. Quebec. They speak Quebec. I honestly feel like I'm gonna get shot at any moment right now. What about the countries that speak Taiwanese or the countries that speak Austrian? I just had to make it worse. I had to keep digging myself in the hole. Here's all the countries my son can name off the top of his head. Oh, I forgot to mention he's 2 months old. So nothing in North America, nothing in Asia, nothing in Africa, but you know, Africa is kind of hard. South America, no. Nothing noticeable in Europe, but what about those small micro states? I think he might have named Liechtenstein. He better have, or else I'm gonna completely disown my son. I'm gonna go like the way of the Spartans and just kick him off a cliff. A kind person explained exactly why the US couldn't beat the Netherlands in the World Cup. Clearly the country is just so much bigger than us. It's basically like our entire continent. And since their country is the size of our entire continent, they probably have a lot of population, a lot more to pick and choose from. It's gotta be the reason why they're so good at soccer. A map of all the countries I haven't been. So looks like they haven't been to Portugal, Spain, France, the UK, Ireland, Germany, Italy, Poland, Russia, Ukraine, Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania. Hold on, let me check those city-states. Nope, I don't think the city-states either. Seems to me this person still could technically be a world traveler. Maybe they've been all over Africa and Asia, South America. I wouldn't count that out. A map of all the countries where politicians have been attacked with a lemon. I thought this list would be a whole lot higher. Are we sure it was out of anger? Was he just trying to hand him a lemon? Believe it or not, you can sail in a straight line from England to France. This is actually a very unknown fact. I would imagine no one realizes this. One of the many beauties of French Guiana in South America. I want to take this trip one day. I think this map inside this restaurant was posted to my own subreddit like 34 times. I can see why too. Okay, where do we begin? We just have South America and Africa. Super thick in... Okay, what? These people really need to buy a new globe for reference. I think it's about 5 million years old. Oh, sorry. Actually make that 55 million years old. Yes, the Mediterranean Sea right here connected to the Indian Ocean. They got Australia right. I'll give them that. As well as Japan and, well, this is a very grand Korea. I dream of the day Korea can get this big. Singapore, what are you doing way up there? This literal city-state of Asia has turned into basically the Mongolian Empire. I like how we just randomly named a city over here, Paris, and it's in Finland. I'm okay with banishing Canada to Greenland. Yes, New York and the Texas province of Nunavut. I feel a little bad because clearly they were trying to go with something like artistic, I think. I think they were just way too focused in like including certain fonts onto the wall. Like they weren't really thinking about what cities or places to name. I don't know. They were just trying to find an excuse to do this weird cursive. The sad thing is, can any of us realize just how long this probably took them? And now we're just all bashing it. Like, the other interesting thing about this is that if this was like made 50 years ago, literally no one would care. And also no one would even know the difference. Like that's just the weird time we're living in now. You don't get every detail right, the internet's just gonna destroy you. A map of all the countries which have a unique letter to start their name. I'm just like racking my head. Is this true? Qatar, Oman, Yemen? They're all unique. Okay, well, I knew that there were no other Q nations out there. Yeah, no, this is absolutely right. Yemen as well as Oman, too. This is a massive discovery. These really are the only 3 places in the world that have unique starting letters to start their country name, and they're all right next to each other. How exactly does that work? The Z's were close, which, I mean, speaking of this subject, I'm convinced one of these 2 countries really needs to copy strike the other. But yeah, I guess the Z's are right next to each other, too. Oh, that's right. 30 years ago, Yemen would have had a little buddy. Of course, this is just in the English language. Other like languages have different names for countries. Let me see if there even is a difference here. No, and no. All right, I'll just shut up then. A map of the United States, but the state's borders have been drawn way more efficiently, and everything is just like more fairly distributed too. Like there isn't a massive California here, and there isn't a bunch of just really tiny states in the Northeast. Like that still bugs me to this day. Yeah, and why let all the Hawaiian islands just be one? Why not give them to different states? Let Arkansas have the big island, and Alaska's so big, it definitely gonna be cut up a little bit. My favorite part about this though is to put the capital actually in the center of the country. Like that's genius. How did our leaders not think of this? What were they thinking when they put it all the way over here just between Virginia and Maryland? Why not literally put it right in the middle between every single state we have? Scientists say with increasing certainty that this map represents the US in 30 years if we don't remove climate change. Are we as Americans ready for these consequences? It's interesting because whenever the topic of water elevation rising, we're always talking about the coastal cities. But I guess that's because just no one cares about the middle of the country. It's just gonna be gone. Well, except Ohio though, of course that's still perfect. And big thanks to my patrons. Drew, I'm stalking you and will kidnap you December 27th, 2022. DJ McSkillet,
aPhatNarwhal,
Drew's Argentinian
$20 is a
Bjarne
lot. Bring
Wildfang,
back
Evan Pryce,
GoodOldRyah,
Isaac Kilgore,
LuxembourgLover,
Noah Gamer,
Veiotic,
Bassall
ortin
69,
5610,
Patrick,
Phresh
Allison,
Animations,
RyeThePie,
Scottish
Sebi,
Token,
if you hear this, I love you. The
Lithuanian,
Mexican
Commonwealth,
Twickenhamster.
and why am I doing this?